Hey guys, so I'm going to talk to you about a time where I used evidence to influence in a positive way clinical outcomes and how that kind of changed the perception of, in this case, our team physician of me as a clinician. So, our team doctor was using what we call the 10% rule in cross country for return to play for stress fractures. So, if I had a cross country kid who I diagnosed with a stress fracture, it was confirmed on MRI, and we kind of came up with a plan. That plan with our team physician would always include what we call the 10% rule, meaning every week you could increase your mileage by 10% when you're symptom free and you're returning to running after stress fracture. So I have some student athletes who are averaging between 80 and 90 miles a week. So if they're back at zero and we're increasing by 10%, that would take almost 30 weeks for them to get back to their full mileage. So that means if you have a stress fracture in the fall, you would have to essentially redshirt the whole year because it would take the entire spring to ramp you back up to 90 miles. So I kind of had a meeting with our team physician and I collected all of the evidence to suggest that the 10% rule is really good for like your active kind of older population who are doing half marathons or marathons, but it's not necessarily great for student athletes who are running almost 90 to even sometimes 100 miles a week. So the evidence is really good for the 10% rule in active like 50 to 60-year-old people, but not in 18-year-old healthy kids. So we sat down with the team physician and we said, hey, is there any way that we could use the actual 20% rule, which is kind of recently been studied and is super safe, and we know that it's effective. The rates of refracture or re-stress fracture are really, really low with 20% rule. And it was simple as having a conversation with the doc to say, hey, did you know about the 20% rule? And he didn't. So he was just kind of going off 10% because that's what he had always done, and he just hadn't taken the time to dig into that research. But that's where the athletic trainer comes into play to say, hey, this is something I'm really interested in. This is something that I think is effective and safe. What do you think? And he was totally on board, and now we use the 20% rule. So really all it took was a simple search of the evidence, having a meeting, and having a conversation to get it going.